Good evening, members of the Board of Education, Dr. Hamilton, and members of the public. The Monroe Township Board of Education Reorganization meeting is now called to order. Would you please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will now proceed with a roll call. Ms. Antelis?
Here.
Mr. Braverman? Here. Mr. Chiarella? Here. Mr. Kaufman? Here. Mrs. Kolponowicz?
Here.
Mr. Masters?
Here.
Mr. Poi?
Here.
Mr. Prezioso?
Here.
Mr. Tesler? Here. Mr. Zarneski?
Here.
Members of the Board of Education, we have a quorum present this evening. In accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, the Monroe Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted December 28th, 2012, at all schools, the Home News Tribune, the Cranberry Press, and filed with the clerk of the municipality. The official election results and the agenda for this meeting are available at the table at the doorway. And it is my duty now to administer the oath of office to the following individuals who should please join me at the table in front. Mr. Braverman, Mr. Poi, Mr. Prezioso, and Mr. Zarneski. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me.
I, Anthony Prezioso,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the government established in the United States
and this state
and this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
so help me God.
so help me God.
I
Anthony Prezioso,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I possess the qualifications
that I possess the qualifications
prescribed by law
prescribed by law
for the office of Member of Board of Education,
for the office of Member of Board of Education,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all duties of that office
perform all duties of that office
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
I
Doug Poi,
do
Anthony
solemnly
Prezioso,
swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
and declare
and declare
that I am not disqualified
that I am not disqualified
as a voter
as a voter
pursuant to RS 19:4-1,
pursuant to R-4-19-1,
and that I am not disqualified
and that I am not disqualified
to hold this office
to hold this office
due to a conviction of a crime
due to conviction of a crime
or offense
or offense,
listed in NJSA 18A12-1, so help me God.
so help me God.
Help me God.
Please sign and congratulations. Number 7 on the agenda is the election of board president. At this particular time, we will take nominations for the office of board president. Is there anyone that wishes to make a nomination at this point? Mr. Precioso.
I'd like to speak before we vote on president. Am I allowed?
I believe we take nominations first. And then we could discuss once we have nominations.
Okay, there's this thing about the Jamesburg vote, and for years they've been voting, and for the first time, their vote is not counted. This law has been into effect since 2008, and evidently, somebody pursued this, and I would like to know whose idea it was to investigate and proceed in removing the Jamesburg vote before I nominate a president or vote for a president.
Regarding the sending representatives' right to vote in the officers' positions for the Monroe Township Receiving Board of Education, Dr. Hamilton and I discussed the nuances of the new election law about a month ago, and we had forecasted to try to alleviate any problems ahead of time, some issues that may arise from the postponement of the election to November, the board members taking over in January, and we did some hypothetical scenarios of issues that could arise, and out of those issues were 2 items that we requested legal assistance in gaining an answer. One of them in particular was the sending district's right to vote in the officers of the Monroe Township Board of Education. And it was determined by a board attorney who's present this evening, as well as the legal advising team from New Jersey School Boards, that since the 2008 law of Evans versus the Atlantic City Board of Education, that the sending district does not have a right to vote in the receiving district's officers' selection, and that the sending district additionally has limited voting power in the receiving district. There's 4 specific items that this sending district is entitled to vote on in the receiving district's meetings, and the election of officers was not one of them, and it was deemed by the board attorney not to be permissible.
Okay, I was curious because this law has been in effect for 8 years now, and someone pursued this in order to gain something. And since we're voting for president, I can accept that we need to follow the rules in this instant, but we need to follow all of our policy rules. We have a nepotism policy whose intent is to avoid conflict of interest with members of the board who have paid salary family members employed by the school district. We need to follow the intent of our nepotism policy and prevent a conflict of interest with board members and their ability to perform all duties.
I have a
as
point of
board
order.
member.
Mr. Braverman.
Point of order is,
Such a member would not have the best
election of
interest of
board
the children or
president
the
is on the
citizens of
table.
Monroe. That's it.
All right. Are there any nominations for president at this time? Mr. Masters?
I'd like to nominate Marvin Braverman.
Second.
Okay, when we have a second. Are there any other nominations for board president? Mr. Kaufman?
I'd like to nominate Kathy Kay.
Is there a
I
second?
second.
Are there any other nominations for president? All right, seeing none, we'll close the nominating process for president, and we will have a roll call. And because we have 2 candidates being selected for president, please express the name of the candidate you wish to vote for president. And the choices are Marvin Braverman and Kathy Koloponowicz. Ms. Antelis.
Mr. Braverman.
Mr. Braverman.
Braverman.
Mr. Chiarella. Mr. Kaufman.
Ms. Kalpanowicz.
Mrs. Kolpanowicz.
Myself.
Mr. Masters.
Mr. Braverman.
Mr. Poi.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Mr. Precioso.
Ms. Kapanowitz.
Mr. Tesler.
Kathy Kay.
That's 5 votes for Kathy Kay, 4 votes for Mr. Braverman. Kathy Kolpanowicz has been elected board president. Kolpanowicz. Prepare the agenda to take you through those. And the election of the vice president and so on. The chair will now be turned over to Mrs. Kolpanowicz.
Thank you. I'd just like to say before I go for nominations for vice president that it's always been a privilege to serve as a member of the Board of Education and especially as board president. I truly believe that I'm here for the community and especially for our staff and our students. So I know the last couple of years have been kind of difficult, so I hope that this board can put aside their differences, start working together, and know that we're all here just for educational reasons. So thank you. At this time, we will open the floor for nominations for the position of vice president. Are there any nominations? Mr. Kaufman?
I would like to nominate Mr. Ira Tesler for vice president.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one, can we have a motion to close nominations? Don't we have to do that?
Yes.
Is there a motion to close nominations? Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Poi.
I'd like to move one unanimous vote for Ira Kessler.
Tesler.
I'm sorry?
Tesler.
It doesn't matter.
Well, I'm just trying to do protocol. So, all in favor of closing nominations? Opposed? Abstentions? Then we will have a roll call for the election of Ms. Ira Tesler to the position of Board Vice President.
Ms. Antelis?
Yes.
Mr. Braverman?
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski? I beg your pardon, Mr. Kaufman? Mr. Kaufman?
That's right. Yes.
Mrs. Kolpanowicz?
Yes.
Mr. Masters?
Absolutely yes.
Mr. Poi?
Yes.
Mr. Precioso?
Yes.
Mr. Tesler?
Thank you very much. Yes.
Madam Board President, Ira Tesler has been elected Board Vice President.
Congratulations, Ira. Would you like to say anything, or?
Well, as I approach my end of my second term, I'd just like to thank everybody for their support tonight. I'm humbled, and I appreciate the support and that I can do this job. Thank you.
And before we go on to the organizational items, I'd just like to welcome Mr. Rob Zarneski as our new representative to Monroe Board of Education from the Jamesburg Board of Education. He has small feet to fill, small shoes to fill, following Patrice, who has been here for 17 years, and she was a really important part of Monroe. And we look forward to working with you and having the same kind of relationship we have with Patrice. So welcome. Do we have to vote on all of these? At this time, we will have go to number 9, our organizational items, meeting dates. Be it resolved that the regular meetings of the Board of Education of the Township of Monroe shall be held as per the attached schedule at 7:00 p.m., at which time formal action may be taken. I need a motion and a second.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kaufman and second by Mr. Masters. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstention, or opposed? Abstentions? Then number A has been passed. And we will go to B, policy. Be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Township of Monroe that all policies of the previous board are hereby adopted until such time as the board decides to revise or otherwise alter policies. I need a motion and a second. Mr. Kaufman?
Second.
Second by Mr. Tesler. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Then the motion passes. Number C, the designation of banks or depositories. Be it resolved that the Board of Education designates the following banks or depositories for school district funds: TD Bank, Commerce Bank, PNC Bank, the Depository Trust Company, State of New Jersey Cash Management Fund, Wells Fargo, previously Wachovia, New Jersey Asset and Rebate Management, Provident Bank, J.C. Morgan. And Provident Bank provides most of the banking services. Be it further resolved that the business administrator is authorized to establish accounts and wire transfer funds among the accounts as needed and approve the payment of bills between board meetings. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Poi and Mr. Kaufman. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Then the motion passes. D, newspapers for legal advertisements. Be it resolved that the Board of Education designates the Cranberry Press, Home News Tribune, or the Asbury Park Press, all of which circulate in the school district, as official newspapers for legal advertisement. Motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Poi, Mr. Kaufman, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Then the number D has passed. And at this time, we will go to number 10, our student board members' reports.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hope everybody had a wonderful break and happy holidays and New Year. The events that will take this place are the DECA Regional Conference meeting is on January 8th.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. There will also be a winter band concert on January 16th, 6 p.m. There will be a half day on January 18th due to staff and service, and school will be closed on January 21st because of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. College planning night for seniors is January 30th. Thank you.
Thank you for your reports. At this time, we will go to a public forum. Anyone from the public wishing to come and speak to the agenda, please state your name and record, your name and address for the record. This is for the agenda.
You don't know this.
Agenda. 3 minutes.
I thought we voted for 10 minutes. Don't start counting yet.
Name and address, please.
Name and address for the record.
Mark Klein, 53 Turnberry Drive, Monroe Township. Number one, I want to congratulate Kathy and Ira on their election. I asked Kathy to continue the work that you did last year and not drop it and just continue doing the great job that you did. And I was very happy to see that you're reelected to the post, and I'm very happy to see Ira as your vice president. One thing that really, really disturbs me is the fact Jamesburg has always been able to vote for the presidency. And I believe if you check the law, I wonder if it's more of a mandate than a law, because we've always allowed Patrice to vote for the presidency. I think they have a right to vote. And for that to be checked into at this point, for whatever reason, is definitely wrong and I feel unprofessional. Last thing, I made a motion 3 months ago to look into filing a lawsuit against New Jersey Department of Education for our funding. And the only excuse that I got is it's going to be very costly. Well, I'll tell you something. as a taxpayer that is taxed through my nose. We should do everything in our power to file a lawsuit. If we have other school districts to join us, fine. I'm worried about Monroe Township and its taxpayers. We can no longer afford to pay what we're paying. And I say that you follow through with filing a lawsuit against the state. I spoke to a judge. We have all the right to do it and probably would prevail because they are in violation of the state constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Anyone else would like to speak to the agenda? Okay, this time we'll go to the board president's report, and I didn't have anything planned. I'd just like to tell the board members that I'd like to get the committee lists out if it's works with Mr. Gorski by maybe Friday, so that, and have them back as soon as possible, so that maybe we can have the committees established by our next meeting on January 16th. So if we send them out with the confidential on Friday and get them back as soon as possible, I hope to get this done within a week to 10 days. And that concludes my report today. Are there any committee reports that need to have nothing? That's because we were all on a holiday. Is there any other business by any member of the Board of Education? Mr. Chiarella?
I just want to bring up, and I don't know if this needs a motion or what, but I think that we need to have our policy committee look at maybe going to implementing a rotating presidency, something that would be less intrusive into the lives of board members, and I think I think that year after year, what we've seen are divisions and fights along, backroom deals and fights and things going on to try to garner support for the presidency and the vice presidency, and I think that it would do us all well to maybe create something where we could create a method so that we could pick a vote, have a nominating committee or something like that, vote for a president, and then move that along year after year. Where say we went alphabetically, that the vice president, the president would be chosen that way, and then the vice president becomes this way. Each board member bears the burden and the responsibility of being president and vice president, and also has a chance to affect change and maybe have their views heard and maybe impact the direction of the board. But I just don't think that this is helping us. And I can tell you that the different divisions that have gone on go well beyond just today. And I'm not picking on any one person. There are many people that aren't here anymore, but things like committee responsibilities and things like that. I mean, I've seen board members who have been stripped of, and I'm not saying this about our current president, that she did any of this, but I have seen board members in the past stripped of committees and basically relegated to sidelines and stuff like that. And I just think that if we had a better way of doing this, we would be able to spend more time worrying about the children and worrying about education and less time worrying about who has power and how we're going to get power and personal power and things like that. So
What we'll do is we'll send this to the policy committee. I don't think we have to vote on that. And we'll look into the legalities of this and to see if this is something that the policy committee can come up with something. Would that be okay?
thank you. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Tesler?
Yeah, just to build on what Ken said, I find this meeting pretty stressful for myself. I'm the type of guy who really wants to get along with everybody, and back when I was a kid and a teenager, for me to be at a meeting or be in public, I was kind of a shy, nerdy kid, and I would never see myself in this spot. So I always was the type who wanted to always get along and be friends and get along with everybody and do our job here for the children of Monroe and our taxpayers and everybody in the community. So maybe it's time to research something else to take the little stress off and hopefully make everybody's job a little easier, and let's focus on what really matters.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Masters?
Just to reiterate the weight of this, I agree with Ken. In my opinion, the reorg meeting is the most uncomfortable meeting I've ever been at in my life, and including the weeks and months leading up to it. There's a lot of exactly what Ken said. So I'm 1,000% for what Ken was saying. Of some other process, or even to smooth this process, I'd be 100% for it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam President,
Boyd?
I'd like to speak on a different topic.
Sure.
I'd like to use this opportunity really to express my desire and my optimism to work with all the members of the board to help make the schools in Monroe better each and every year, to help reduce cost wherever possible, and also to work on improving communications between the school district, our parents, our teachers, our students, and the other residents of the community. I think that we can do a better job in all three of those categories, and I look forward to working with my fellow board members in doing that. I'd also like to thank, since this will be the one opportunity, and I think it's appropriate, I would like to thank all of those that worked for my election. I particularly want to thank those who were willing to have a sign, a campaign sign on their property, because they took a visible statement saying that they supported my candidacy. I'd like to thank all the various people who distributed flyers at either the back-to-school nights or helped in getting them out to the homes so that people would know what my position was and what my thoughts were about being a member of the board. And I particularly want to thank all the people who voted for me, because without those people, I wouldn't be sitting here tonight. And last, and clearly not least, I want to thank the support of my wife, Phyllis, who is here tonight, and other members of my family. They were all very supportive during this period of time, and I hope to all the voters and to my fellow board members and to my family that you will look with pride upon my tenure as a member of the Board of Education of Monroe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poy. Anyone else? Mr. Tiarella?
Yes. And this is another topic, although I am wearing my Doug Poy t-shirt under this. Mr. Gorski, if you could, I know we had a conversation about the opt-outs and stuff. I've been asking about how many opt-outs we had and how that's working out, because I know we're about to go through negotiations again. How quickly did that go? But if you could, please elaborate on how many opt-outs we've had, how much cost savings that has been for us, and what you foresee as any further gains that we can get out of that.
Certainly.
Do you have that information with you?
Yes.
Okay.
In the last round of negotiations that the board entered into with the MTEA, Monroe Township Education Association, there was an agreement which was part and parcel of the salary increases as a percentage to offer a unique program that hadn't been introduced in this district before, and that was an opt-out from health benefits, all health benefits. So if an individual was to opt out of health benefits, it would get a prorated part for the first year, but it would equivalent to a $4,000 family stipend to that individual, or a $2,500 single person. And what that saves the district is about $18,000 for a family plan. So far, we've had 92 people that have opted out of health insurance. That has reduced the appropriation for health insurance by over $1.5 million. That amount, over the term of the contract, exceeds the incremental salary raises that the teachers got in aggregate. So, in other words, the cost of this incremental contract to the board is negative. You're actually saving money with this teacher's contract thanks to the bargaining of the MTEA and the board. So, in addition to that, there are mandatory health insurance contributions dictated by the state of New Jersey. And I checked with our payroll department recently, and we had exceeded $1.3 million in the last year for health insurance deductions from employees' pay to help contribute towards health insurance. So the two of those combined are about $2.8 million. That's a significant dent in the health insurance bill, and has afforded the Board of Education a luxury of a good negotiation round with the teachers.
Mr. Masters?
Just on that, who was involved in the negotiations?
Who was?
Who was involved in that?
Mr. Chiarella was, I was, and Mr. Leary from the board. Then you were, and Dr. Hamilton, and I don't think there was anybody else, and our attorney.
And we
Good
had
job.
a board negotiator who's present, Vi Lordy.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay, then we will go to number 15, the public forum. Anyone from the public wishing to speak, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
I want to make a motion, we go to 30
Time
seconds.
left for the first time.
What was it?
Mark Klein, 53 Turnberry. Something we're all, we have knowledge of, is that Marlborough has put a police officer, and we spoke about it at one of the committee meetings, put a police officer in every school, and an armed police officer. And something that was brought up by somebody in my development, when I said that that's what we would hope to do here, the excuse I got was, well, it would scare the kids. Well, they interviewed some of the kids at Marlborough, and I would guesstimate that these kids were probably 6 or 7 years old, maybe 8 years old. Basically, the 2 children that they spoke to said that they feel safer with the presence of a police officer at the school. Another deterrent is having a marked police car outside the school. So I don't know what you're going to plan to do, but I definitely would look into that. It's a tough decision, but they had somebody else at another school today, I believe it was also in Connecticut, walked into the school with a gun. He was a security guard, so, and was able to get into the school. So it's something that we should look at. And I just, do what you can, but these kids have to be protected. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening, Tom Notestein, 15 Nathaniel Street. A couple comments with regards to the lack of the Jamesburg vote. I think if we go back on some of the other reorg meetings, we're going to see that this is not the first time this issue has come up. I know for a fact that that law that Mr. Gorski mentioned has been brought up before. And it's always been my contention that legally the Jamesburg rep is only allowed to vote on items that pertain to the high school. Is that an accurate assessment?
Do you have
That's partially correct. There's 4 criteria that the Jamesburg Board of Education representative has a right to vote on. Bear with me 1 second, I'll pull those out. These are the 4 criteria established by 18A 38-8.1. Any additional member of a receiving district Board of Education shall be a member of the Board of Education of a sending district designated annually by the board of that district and shall be eligible to vote on the following matters before the receiving district Board of Education. A, tuition to be charged to the sending district by the receiving district and the monthly bill lists or contracts for the purchase, operation, and maintenance of facilities, equipment, and instructional materials to be used in the education of pupils of the sending district. That would be, an example would be the monthly bill list. That's part of the business administrator's report, or professional contracts that are part of the business administrator report. They would be able to vote on those items that pertain to the high school. B, new capital construction to be utilized by the sending district pupils.
Again, for the high school.
Yes, exactly correct. C, appointment, transfer, or removal of teaching staff members providing services to pupils of the sending district, including any teaching staff member who is a member of the receiving district's central administrative staff. Example of that would be the high school teaching staff for our district, as well as any administrator holding a teaching certificate who touches that child in any way for the high school. And D, addition or deletion of curricular and extracurricular programs involving pupils of the sending district. Those are the 4, and again, guidance from our board attorney, as well as New Jersey School Board's legal guidance team, was such that the vote would not be permissible, and therefore it was Dr. Hamilton and my recommendation to the board not to allow the Jamesburg representative to vote on the election of officers this evening.
Okay, well, I thank you for that, because I said, I know that's come up in the past, and it's always been my contention that they shouldn't be voting on it, because it's not, it doesn't pertain strictly to the high school, to the board president at this point. So I appreciate whoever decided to look into it. I appreciate you looking into it. Secondly, you also mentioned about the opt-out monetary gains that we have seen based on those 92 some odd teachers that have opted out, or employees that have opted out. My big concern here, and I think unfortunately you've already said it, that you've had a productive contract negotiation meeting. What we don't want is, we don't want to just turn around and give this money back as raises, because that is not the spirit of what we're doing here. We need to make people more personally responsible for their health care, and in order to do that, it doesn't mean having them pay it on one hand and then we give it back to them as a pay raise. So I hope that that's not what we're intending on doing. As we've seen so often in the past, any money we get here, we tend to like to spend it right away. That has got to stop in this environment. So I urge this board to please look very closely at that, because that is not what this give back or this opt-out was meant to do. Thank you very much for your time.
Anyone else from the public?
Robert Roach, 18 Muirfield Boulevard. I have 3 items. Maybe I'll just comment on them, and then you can respond because of the 3-minute limit. Early in December, you had a meeting where you were discussing the budget for 13-14. And I was disappointed to see that the school board directed the superintendent of schools, Dr. Hamilton, to prepare a budget that was up to the cap. I hope that the board would have had a little more common sense and say, hey, look, we're in a time where we should be saving some money. I did some rough calculations, and I'm sure Mike's going to tell me I'm all wet, and I probably am. But my calculation indicates that if you go up to the cap, it's going to cost about $3.5 million. And then you have the issue with the debt service, which $2 million was used from surplus funds. I don't know what's going to happen with that this year. I don't know whether we ever got all the money from the state where we can use it. But if we have to then pay additional $2 million in debt service funds, then that's going to be like $5.5 million, which means the taxpayers' portion of the school budget would go up almost 6%, which I think is just a shame. I think that at least the municipality has taken some effort to try to reduce their budget, recognizing that the township cannot pay any bit more. It's like the federal government. All the federal government wants to do is get more revenue from the people and forget about expenses. That's sort of the philosophy of this school board. Let's get more of the revenue from the taxpayers and spend more money. Another issue is that in last year, you're talking at the last monthly meeting, you were talking about the need to repair roofs and various other structures. Last year's budget, the state gave you almost $900 million additional from what was initially designated. What the school board decided to do is replace programs that the council had cut out. Had you used that $900 million to make some of these repairs to the structures, maybe we wouldn't be in the same situation we're in today. The my third issue is that I thought the bill that was put out by the Board of Education that was sent down to Senator Greenstein was a great idea, but I was sad to see that one of the issues that was in the letter, well, I'm glad I didn't wait for responses, was that the bill, as you were proposing it, was that any additional revenue from that new procedure would just go for taxpayer relief. That is not part of the bill, and I would like a commitment from the board that if that bill does pass and we do get additional funds, that monies, whatever they are, will go to taxpayer relief.
Mr. Gorski, would you like to respond?
Yes. Mr. Roche, I've found over the years that your calculations are always right on. You were one of the few people that I've gone through the budget with that has actually calculated the tax rate, so I give you credit for that. But in the instance of going to cap, our estimate is $1.8 million of additional revenue that would bring in, because it's last year's preceding general fund tax levy, plus adjustments for health care and enrollment, inflated by 2%, and consistent with last year, it's about $1.8 million of additional money. Now, bear with me for 1 second. At the December meeting to establish a budget philosophy, we went through a great deal of issues that are affecting the 13-14 budget. Most costly is 225 additional students that we expect and we can demonstrate will be upon us in that school year. To educate those kids on average, and granted you can absorb them for 1 year, but after you accumulate 225 every year, you're going to have a major expenditure for additional facilities and so on. 225 new students on average is $3.1 million of expense to the district. We also have $1.4 million less of excess surplus carrying over due to appropriations for Applegarth Schools refurbishing. We also have a new instructional lease obligation, and there's also a need to replace 3 buses and 2 vans, which are aging out according to the state's schedule. So all of that combined far exceeds the $1.8 million cost raised from the taxpayers by going to cap. Now, additionally, what the board had instructed Dr. Hamilton and I to look at was addressing some of the roofs in this district that are in severe need of repair. I have a photograph here I'd like you to take a look at of the Monroe Township Middle School roof. And you can see the condition that that roof is in, and that is a prime example of about 6 other facilities in the district that are about 10 or 15 years beyond their expected life warranty that need immediate help. So in the next year's budget, Jerry Tague is working on the budget sheets now, but he has given me preliminary numbers that there's going to be about a $1.25 to $1.5 million cost associated with engineering and construction for replacements for sections of this Monroe Township Middle School roof. Last year, we took the additional additional state aid that we received, and we replaced the Brookside roof. So what the board has chosen to do is replace roofs and capital projects that are not designed to be incorporated in a school budget because of the very restrictive cap. This is an extraordinary accomplishment to have done the Brookside roof and to possibly do the Monroe Township Middle School roof in a general fund operating budget with 225 new children, less fund balance carrying over from the prior year. And one final good word on the tax outlook for next year is that 5 cents of the 8 cent increase last year was due to the decrease in ratables. Ratables is the base that shares the tax levy. And as that ratable base decreases, everybody's rate increases. This year, we've got some preliminary good news that we are not expecting another decrease of $78 million to the ratable base. So that's 5 of 8 cents last year was due to the ratable base. We expect to put a budget together this year addressing 225 new children, fixing a roof, which is usually a bond referendum item, absorbing $1.4 million less of surplus, and to have an increase of less than 5 cents. I hate to throw a number out preliminarily because we don't know what state aid is going to be. We have issues with Jamesburg on the tuition that's not resolved at this time. But that's a lengthy explanation of some of the items that you brought up.
Excuse me, Mike, excluding the debt portion.
900 million, yeah. It's 9,900,000.
And what was that pertaining to?
Yeah, just to put it correctly, it wasn't
Oh, yes.
$900 million that we got back.
900,000. Did I say
900,000.
Yeah.
900 million.
Yeah.
We would be jumping for joy.
Hey, what's a zero here and there?
And-
Zero here, there. No, 900,000.
And
I'm
one
sorry if
final,
I said
one final
900
thing,
million.
with the bill S-2307, we worked closely with, Dr. Hamilton and I worked closely with Senator Greenstein in the development of that bill, which was our initiative through the board's recommendation. And in the format that that Senator Greenstein transcribed it with her legislative team, it does not have in there a provision that the additional aid be directed to tax relief. But I believe the board has stated at the budget philosophy meeting that that is the intention.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else from the public?
My name is Lisa Demore, and I live at 3 Fallow Way in Monroe Township. I am shifting gears here a little bit from the money and tax cut issues. However, I do feel that hopefully there's a way that we can find to sort of move resources around to allow for additional services for our children. And with that being said, the first one I would like to bring out there that being that I have a high schooler at this high school and another child at the Applegarth Elementary School, I have already seen the difference in having removed live teaching of Spanish at the elementary levels. The level at which my son was at that point in time compared to the level at which Madison is at in the 4th grade at this point in time is significantly different. And quite frankly, I don't feel it's anything other than just the way in which it's being taught. Currently, they're using, and I will tell you, I commend, Madison is very fortunate to have Miss Shaw as her 4th grade teacher at Applegarth. I asked the board to find more teachers like her. She's fabulous, and anything we can do to bring more of her on board is definitely an asset to our children. But with that being said, she tries in every way, shape, and form to utilize the online Spanish, learning it through the laptops, but it's still not the same. And knowing the growth of Spanish in the American society and the need to know that language, I think it would be of our good interest. And the second thing I would like the board to look at attempting to do, and I hear this from multiple parents, but I myself am sort of very passionate about the school calendar. I don't know, I probably should know, but I don't know when school calendars are made. But what I can tell you is that, and I'm sure there's research out there, have I done it? No, but we all know ourselves that when there is a week where we have a very consistent week and not broken up with a lot of half-a-days or days off, that those weeks tend to be more productive in our own lives, and I think that we'd find the same as well. So if there's something we can do to have more consistency and less time off, if you will, in the school calendar, I think, again, too, that would be value added to our children. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sound like my wife.
Anyone else from the public?
Cheryl Arminio, 9 Nathaniel Street. I have a few comments. First of all, welcome to the new board members. I look forward to more mature and deliberative body. And I wasn't going to say this, but since we're talking about the raise in taxes, I would hope that as we raise taxes consistently every year, that we do a little bit more to raise the performance of our education. The students need to perform better. We need to, it's not just about raising taxes, it's about raising our educational standards. So I think we'd all feel a lot better if those were raised in conjunction with the taxes, but we need to get a good result from the taxes that are being spent. I don't think there's anybody here that begrudges the payment of taxes. I don't have children in the school system, but I'm glad to pay for education, but I want good education. I think that has been really the purpose of the outcry about the increase in taxes. So please, I hope that works. Also, with the consistency of new students coming in, we go down and beg the state to contribute and to take care of us, but maybe you can also encourage the teachers and the parents and the taxpayers to go to the Township Council in Monroe. and the planning board. That is where the students are coming from. Essentially, the type of future planning in the next few years is going to highly impact our school system. So please, don't go just down to Trenton, just go across the street to the Township Council and the Planning Board, because that's where all that activity is happening. And I'd also like to make a comment about some of the trepidation some board members have about making tough decisions. There's a difference between disagreeing with colleagues on matters of education issues and mean-spirited, uncivil behavior toward those who disagree with you. Mature discussion and civil disagreements are essential to bringing new ideas and compromise and deliberation and in making decisions. So I hope the members of this board should not participate in sophomoric popularity contests, but take the responsibility to make uncomfortable decisions if you have to, because that's what gets us forward. If everybody's just holding hands, we're not going to get anywhere. Unanimous decisions aren't always the best decisions. So I hope to see more deliberation, and I hope that people will respect each other, respect the public, and take a mature attitude about making tough decisions. That's what you're here for, the tough decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Anyone else from the public?
Mary Ann Lester, 44 Avenue I. I'd like to address the cost of the replacement of the classroom wing roof of the Monroe Township Middle School at $1.25 million. Since this is only a partial roof replacement, the estimate seems very high for one wing. I was just wondering the name of the construction or roofing company that gave you the estimate and their credentials. And also, does the board rely solely on the integrity of the estimator, or do you consult with someone else in the district as to the reasonableness of the estimate? The reason I'm asking is that I came upon a 115-page report done in 2000 by the State of New Jersey Commission of Investigation entitled Waste and Abuse in Public School Roofing Projects. Apparently, New Jersey school roofing projects, which are one of the most costly projects in school districts, have been riddled with conflicts of interest and deceptions. The abuses uncovered by the Commission in public school roofing projects were at times abetted by the action and inaction of school district officials and by the oversight and guidance at the state and local levels. Some bullet points that caught my attention in particular were the roofing material suppliers. For example, a leading supplier of roofing materials routinely was presented as a manufacturer of projects bearing its own label for which no other product could be substituted. In reality, the firm produced few materials and instead chiefly relabeled products made by others and sold them at inflated prices. 2, design consultants working in secret partnership with manufacturers and suppliers of roofing materials routinely crafted proprietary project specifications that favor a given set of products, thus eliminating competition in the award of contracts. 3, technical, quote, hurdles were inserted throughout the project specifications to foreclose the possible substitution of less expensive materials of similar or equal quality. So in conclusion, I'd like to submit this investigative report to the board for their review, and maybe in particular to Mr. Prezioso, as he used to work in construction.
Thank you. We'll have Mr. Gorski respond.
Can I hand this down?
We'll bring it up here. We'll take it.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am, for your interest in the construction process, and I hope to alleviate some of your concerns with my answer. If not, I'd like to invite you in to meet with Jerry Tague, our facilities director, who's been with the district about 24 years, and bring further satisfaction if needed. The specifications for the roofs are designed by an architect that the board has a professional services contract and represents the Board of Education. That person develops the specifications for the very intricate roof repair or replacement that's needed, and it delineates in those specs the very detailed degree of all the materials to be used, right down to the finest detail. Then public procurement laws require that the project is put out to bid. And the Board of Education by law must then review the bids and award the project to the lowest qualified bidder. We've been very fortunate with our last couple of roof repairs, and with the roofer who bid and won the award for this high school construction, because we've received very favorable outcomes from all of those, but that's not always the case. The lowest qualified bidder sometimes undercuts by such a degree that a lot of school districts face an unsatisfactory product at the end, have to go after bid bonds, and have disasters with that. The Board of Education here is also very fortunate in that the board invested in a qualified district facilities manager who has done a wonderful job not only managing this project and keeping change orders to under half a dozen through this project, but manages all of the other district facilities in a very dedicated manner. The facilities director would also be involved in the roof replacement process. He's up on roofs weekly, and he would be also very much engaged in that. Furthermore, as the business administrator, I have a qualified purchasing agent certification from the state that would be revoked if any impropriety, some of which you alluded into, was committed by any members of the Board of Education or administration in the project. Not only that, I have a professional license, as does Dr. Hamilton, that could also be revoked and prohibit us from continuing to work in our chosen profession. So, we take these projects very seriously. They're very carefully planned. The Building Grounds Transportation Committee and the full board is engaged in the project from start to finish. Every week, Dr. Hamilton sends to every board member a weekly confidential that contains a facilities update section that apprises them of emergent facility projects that are going on through the district and their current status, including photographs and percentages of completion. So I believe I touched on all your points, and if not, please don't hesitate to give me a call.
Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
I just wanted to follow up.
Can you please give your name and address for the record?
My name is Bob Zeglarski, 162 Tournament Drive. I just want to follow up on something that Bob Roach mentioned in terms of debt service. I know that, and taxes. I know that last year you used bond proceeds. I believe you had about $5 billion left over from bond proceeds of the high school bonds, and you were able to use about $2 million of that for tax relief, basically, in last year's budget. Are you going to? How long do you have to run that out? Is that a 3-year or a 5-year process? And are you going to be able to effect some relief using those funds this year?
The way that works, and I'm deviating from your question a bit, the state of New Jersey allows you to bond for specific project needs. And we had project estimators involved in the cost of the high school. We had architects. And through the efficient management of the project and some fortunate price decreases, particularly with roofing shingles and steel that the board took advantage of, we finished the project substantially under budget. Last year, we appropriated, the Board of Education appropriated $2 million against the debt service tax levy to return that surplus to the taxpayers. The requirement by law is that you either expend the money on the project as related to the question for which it was raised, or you return it back in the fashion that we did last year by offsetting the debt service tax levy specifically related to that project. We have a $3 million receivable owed from the Section 15 grant from the School Construction Corp. Mr. Tague and I and Dr. Hamilton are very actively engaged in shaking down this state agency, for lack of a better term, to get our money. Because what we would hate to do is appropriate this money for tax relief before we actually have it in hand. It's a receivable right now on our books. It's included in the surplus number, but we don't have the money yet. Without receiving that money, which I was promised I'll have by the end of January, I would still recommend to the Board of Education to appropriate $2.5 million this year, which we actually have against the debt service tax levy. And if we're fortunate enough that that money comes in by the end of January, the Board of Education could opt to appropriate more against the debt service tax levy and reduce taxes even further. One complication to consider of this is if you use all of the surplus in 1 year, you are going to have a major tax spike in the next year. So you want to amortize the application of the surplus in a fashion that it allows you to wean off. And the way we're anticipating, it should also correspond with the rateable base in town, not only stabilizing, which it is expected to do next year, but hopefully increasing in the future, so that would help the weaning off process.
Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Seeing no one, our next scheduled Board of Education meeting will be on Wednesday, the January 16th, 2003, 7 o'clock here at the high school. Motion to adjourn, Mr. Kaufman, second by Mr. Masters. All in favor? Meeting adjourned.